Oh, welcome to Yahoo Sports Daily. She's Caroline Fenton. I'm Jason Fitz. It's Wednesday. You know what that means. What day is it?
Hump Day!
Yes,
Oh,
it is.
never gets old.
Yes,
it
indeed.
never gets old. But in fact, Caroline Fenton, today is not Hump Day. It's not just Hump Day. It's also Triple D Day on this in honor of a little bit of Guy Fieri here. We're going to go full Triple D because we got three huge D named guests here. We got Danny Green going to join us. We got Darren Waller going to join us. We got Dalen Cuff going to join us. I don't know. I feel like maybe now you and I should just head to some swarmy weird dive and see if we can make an elite meal. Take the rest of the show off. We'll just cook.
We may as well. Like, what's the point of having a Triple D day if it's not going to be, punctuated with like a greasy burrito or like a delicious taco situation? I mean, it's hump day after all. Why not? Let's go crazy. Let's get weird.
God,
Danny, Darren, and Dalen would appreciate that.
I didn't know I was going to be this hungry as the show starts. This show is going to be elite, but it will start as we love to start with 3 points. Caroline Fenton, what is on your mind first, my friend?
News updates.
Well, George Pickens has been circulating throughout the Dallas media since their loss to the Detroit Lions on Thursday Night Football. And the question has been George Pickens' effort, George Pickens' production in that game. His lowest production since week 1 against the Philadelphia Eagles, just 5 of 9 for 37 yards, 0 touchdowns on the day. And Jerry Jones was asked about George Pickens' effort, and Jerry Jones said 0 question about his effort. In fact, Jerry Jones couldn't have said enough nice things about George Pickens. A pluses. He said he brings everything to the table. He doesn't have any question about George Pickens' effort. And that brings up the question of, will George Pickens be in a Dallas Cowboys uniform next season and for the foreseeable future? A lot of people have concluded since Jerry Jones has been speaking real nice about George Pickens, that means that maybe the gears behind the scenes are turning about an extension for George Pickens, keeping him in Dallas long term. I'm sorry, I don't need Jerry Jones to be saying that George Pickens brings everything to the table in order for me to know that George Pickens will be or should be a Dallas Cowboy moving forward. George Pickens is the Dallas Cowboys leading receiver. Let's keep in mind that is a Cowboys team that has CeeDee Lamb on it. And I view CeeDee Lamb as one of the best receivers in the National Football League, but that doesn't mean that I don't think George Pickens shouldn't get a massive deal, perhaps even the richest deal of any receiver in the National Football League. Because George Pickens is such a massive cog of what the Dallas Cowboys have done offensively this season. George Pickens can't do what he does without CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb can't do what he does without George Pickens. George Pickens has been the absolute most perfect fit in this offense. He can stretch the field and, maybe even more importantly, he can take attention away from CeeDee Lamb. So if George Pickens is covered up, then CeeDee Lamb can carry the rock. If CeeDee Lamb gets covered up, well, then you're going to leave George Pickens wide open. You've got 2 guys that can slice and dice you. You've got 2 reliable pass catchers for Dak Prescott to throw to. And if Jerry Jones says that they're continuing to build for the future, which is what he has said several times, he said it's part of the justification for the Quinn and Williams trade is that they're keeping their eyes on 2026 and beyond. Well, you can't keep your eyes on 2026 and beyond without one of the guys who has been a mainstay for you offensively this season. The Dallas Cowboys absolutely, positively have to sign George Pickens moving forward. And it sounds like Jerry Jones knows that as well.
Yeah, Caroline, let's remember that best does not always equal highest paid. Next to market equals highest paid. And people always say, well, it shouldn't. I can't change that. The fact is, if Jerry Jones doesn't want to pay George Pickens, somebody out there with over $100 million in cap space, several teams have it, that are wide receiver needy, several teams are, will make him wildly paid. All right. I'm going to get to my first point in the form of a major announcement. Caroline, I don't know if we can have a drum roll, but we are fully drum rolling an awesome moment. This tweet came out from Ryan Spoon, our boss. It said, very excited to announce that the Indoor Football League is coming to the Yahoo Sports Network in March 2026. 59 live games, including playoff matchups and broadcasts featuring, some guy named Jason Fitz. That's me. Some woman named Carolyn Fenton. That's you. And Nate Tice, available across Yahoo Sports and our Fast channels everywhere. This is a new partnership. This is an exciting partnership. I will never forget the day that this show launched, because when this show launched, it wasn't just about Yahoo Sports Daily launching. It was about being part of something bigger, and that's what the Yahoo Sports Network has become. That's what it was always intended to be. And now we have live sports coming to Yahoo in the spring, and amazingly for this show, the chance for you and I to be part of it is something I know we are incredibly, incredibly excited about. The opportunity for me to be in the booth with Nate Tice, for you to be on the sidelines, the opportunity for us to call these games and be part of this moment for Yahoo speaks not only to the belief our bosses have in us in this show, which is obviously transcendent, but also to what's being built here at Yahoo. Caroline, I cannot wait to get to do this during the spring. The only thing worse than having to work with me 5 days a week, though, is you realize that this means that now we're going to be in random cities traveling from Green Bay or Vegas or Jacksonville. The list goes on and on. We can't wait to meet every single indoor football league team and every single indoor football league fan. But you do realize that I'm going to be full diva as we travel.
As you should be, absolutely. The only thing better than 2 hours a day with Jason Fitz 5 days a week is 24/7 with Jason Fitz as we're hitting the road for IFL. But I mean, you hit the nail on the head. The innovation on this team is such an incredibly exciting thing to be a part of. And it's so fun to watch all of our bosses and everybody, all of the brain trust of the Yahoo Sports Network, never being satisfied, always pushing the boundaries, always thinking of how we can better serve all of the Yahoo Sports fans out there and the IFL. They're so excited to be part of this league, which makes me excited to be an ambassador of this league. And Fitz, I know you are excited about it as well. So I could not be happier about this new partnership and to be part of it, to be on the sidelines, to be deep diving into the deep end of the IFL.
This is what the Indoor Football League tweeted in part yesterday. Yahoo isn't just airing our games, they're activating their entire ecosystem around the IFL. Damn right. Exclusive home for 59 IFL games in 2026, including marquee matchups, 2 playoff games in the Eastern Conference Championship. This show cannot wait to be part of it. We'll keep you updated. You're going to hear some IFL talk on this show because, frankly, we're going to be at these games and we're going to make sure that it is an electric environment for everybody. All right, let's get to our top point of the day, and that comes in the form of Old Man River just singing in the background. That comes to the form of a retirement home that's one less resident today because he's on a practice squad. Phillip Rivers is back. The 44-year-old is signing with the Colts practice squad per Ian Rappaport to help Riley Leonard and offer insurance for later in the season. Now, it should be noted for everybody that's asking questions, the practice squad does not make him an active member of this team, but this does mean that he's going to be around. He's going to be here. If this actually happens, like if we are sitting here looking at this moment and there's a moment where he has to go in and play, how comfortable would you be, Caroline?
None at all. 0%. I'm uncomfortable just thinking about it. Frankly, Fitz. And I think it feels inevitable to me right now that Phillip Rivers will see the field. I don't think the Colts single out a guy like Phillip Rivers, who has been part of this organization before, who has played under Shane Steichen before, who knows this system and has played in this system, just to keep him on the practice squad. No, I think that you make that call. You pick up the phone to someone specifically in Phillip Rivers because you expect him to see the field at some point. And look, I love this for Phillip Rivers. I do. It's a great feel-good story. It's a guy who loves football and has won a lot of games in the National Football League. He gets another crack at it. You know, for him, I'm sure that this is a dream come true, and I'm sure it's really hard. I know it's really hard to step away from a game that has consumed your entire life, has been your identity for so long. To be able to reinvigorate that, I'm sure, is a feeling that he can't describe. But I'm uncomfortable with this. He's 44 years old, Fitz, and look, I'm sure Phillip Rivers is in great shape. He coaches high school football. I'm sure he's been doing all the Pilates and all the yoga. That's great and all. I do Pilates and yoga too. I can't play quarterback in the National Football League. When you haven't put pads on and stared down the barrel of a pass rush in 5 years, especially when he would be taking on the Seahawks defense, one of the best in the league, the 49ers defense, one of the best in the league, and the Texans defense, the best in the league, which is who the Colts have upcoming on their schedule, I am absolutely positively terrified that Phillip Rivers is just going to get broken.
You and me both. And to that point, when you start thinking about just what we see every year in September, Every single year in September, we say, well, the football's bad because guys got to work themselves back into football shape. There's no preseason anymore. And these are the guys that are training to be in the league every day. Now, Phillip Rivers has been worried about, being a dad and now a grandpa. He's been worried about coaching a high school football team, right? You think about the fact he's older than Shane Steichen, as you see there. When you think about how long he's been away from the game, I just don't know how you even prepare your body for the first time Seattle sends something that your offensive line doesn't pick up and you just get rocked. Like, this is one of those moments where I think we're all going to collectively hold our breath the first time he takes a hit. And by God, they better have a bath full of Ben Gay for him the day after the game, because any of these hits just hit your body differently, no matter how much you played when you're 44. But when you haven't taken a hit in years, it gets even worse. Now, let's be a beacon of light. Let's be a beacon of hope. There have been some notable athletes that have made their way back into their sport as they've been a little bit older. Let's take a look at some of them. Maybe we could start putting Phillip Rivers in the same conversation as some other legends. George Foreman hadn't boxed in 10 years. Gordie Howe hadn't played in 8 years. You see St. Pierre there 4 years. Martina Navratilova 6 years. But also, I remember watching that, George, because I'm old. I remember watching those George Foreman fights, and I remember my dad sitting around saying, oh, this isn't George Foreman anymore, right? Like, you don't necessarily have the opportunity for Phillip Rivers, who, again, wasn't particularly athletic the last time we saw him on the field. I'm just imagining the just sort of the rollout, the fake rollout with Phillip Rivers. I saw some highlights yesterday. They were playing from, 2012, where that rollout looked in today's game like he had his feet in mud. So I don't know. There have been successful returns, South Carolina.
There have been successful returns. I get that. Totally 100%. How many successful returns after 5 years retired at 44 years old have we ever seen in the National Football League? In the NFL, I understand the NHL, UFC, and boxing. That's not necessarily a tea party, all right? Those are awfully physical sports. But until I see it, I can't believe it. And I really hope that we can see Phillip Rivers go out there, pop off for 275 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. I hope that for him, because how incredible of a story would that be? Those commercials where we see like Jerry Rice and Emmitt Smith, come off the couch and they put their pads on and they go out there and play. I think every retired football player in America would get that kind of itch of like, well, if Phillip Rivers can do it, heck, give me my pads, give me my cleats. I'm getting back out there. It would be a great and wonderful feel-good story if we see Phillip Rivers go out there and have a big performance. I always use this line from The Dark Knight. I love Batman movies. I love the Dark Knight trilogy. And I always use this line that says, don't live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Phillip Rivers went out on a high note. Phillip Rivers went out in such high regard as a person and as a player. If we see Phillip Rivers go back out there after the legacy that he has already cemented for himself, and we see him go out there and just pitch an absolute dud, like a Jalen Hurts on Monday Night Football type of performance, I think that's going to stain Phillip Rivers in our mind and his reputation as a player and what he did in the entirety of his career. Because if he goes back out there and plays, his Hall of Fame clock resets. So he will be eligible for the Hall of Fame 5 years from now. So in 2030 would be the absolute earliest. The most recent memory that all of us will have of Phillip Rivers would be him laying an egg and looking every single bit of 44 years old, if that is in fact what happens. And I hate that for Phillip Rivers, a guy who I think we all hold in very high regard as a player and as a person, of course. I would hate that if that stains his legacy and his reputation.
I also think that when we talk about this Hall of Fame, he's currently a semifinalist for the Hall of Fame class of 2026. We hear that and we think that means it's an inevitability that he's going to get in. I don't know that we can say that. I'm not sure there's anything certain about most people's candidacy for the Hall of Fame. But most importantly, if he starts the clock over, I don't think that's going to make it easier to get in the Hall of Fame. Every single year that we get a new group of quarterbacks that come in, they've played in a different era with different alarming statistics. So I don't know if this speaks to the fact that Phillip Rivers talked to some people and just didn't feel like his candidacy was going to be a valid one coming up. So why not delay it? I don't know if this speaks to the fact that Phillip Rivers probably felt like his best way to get in was later when the senior committee decides on people. I don't know how this process works, but I know that nothing was sure about his Hall of Fame status already. So to me, the longer you delay it, the more likely you are to be eventually competing against quarterbacks like Aaron Rodgers. And it's going to be hard for those numbers to compete, especially without a championship, for a quarterback that certainly was meaningful for his generation and a quarterback that certainly was very meaningful for the franchises that he played for. But meaningful and very good, even excellent, don't necessarily equate to Hall of Fame. We have a lot more to break down over the course of the next several hours. We will get to, again, huge guest coming up. But coming up next, it was a big night in the NBA for the NBA Cup. One of the quarterfinals matchups is set. We'll figure out who has the best shot of actually getting through that quarterfinal to win it all.
What's up, Yahoo Sports Daily? It's Dan Titus, and here's what happened while you were sleeping in the NBA. The first game of the NBA Cup knockout round tipped off in Orlando with the Heat facing the shorthanded Orlando Magic. Franz Wagner sat out this game with an injury, and the Heat jumped out to a 15-0 run in the first 3 minutes of the game. This one looked like a blowout, but the Magic didn't flinch. They chipped away at the lead in each quarter and took over in the second half, led by Desmond Bane, who tied a season high with 37 points and also delivered 6 boards and 5 assists. In the end, this one came down to 3-point variance and played a big part in the Magic punching their ticket to Vegas, defeating the Heat 117-108. In the second game of Tuesday's NBA Cup action, the Raptors had no answer for Jalen Brunson, who dropped a season-high 26 points in the first half, finishing with a game-high 35 points as the Knicks took care of business in Toronto 117-101. New York's defense really clamped down on the Raptors after the first frame, holding the Raptors to just 13 points in the second quarter. The Knicks are now 16-0 when leading after 3 quarters this season. Next up, a semifinal clash with the Orlando Magic on Saturday in Las Vegas. So based on tonight's results, which Eastern Conference team do you think has the best chance to actually win the NBA Cup? Back to you.
Caroline, it's a great question with a complicated answer. We see 2 teams right there with the Magic and the Knicks that advance. You see the bracket in front of you. They are likely right now to face, Oklahoma City. Let's just be honest. But they could be facing. Let's see what happens for the west side of the bracket. But between Orlando and the Knicks, who do you think has a better chance of shocking the world and pulling it off?
I think it's Orlando. I might be fully on board the Magic train. Chugga chugga choo choo. I mean, that Magic defense is stifling. Defense wins championships, Fitz. That's what they tell me. Even when the Heat got off to a hot start, the Magic were like, nope, not around here, partner. Because the Magic want to shoot the 3. That is how the Magic are going to ride or die in some of their games. And Orlando held them to 8 of 33, less than 25% from beyond the arc. So you match that stifling defense with what we saw from Desmond Bane. You think the darkness is your friend? You merely adopted the darkness. Desmond Bane was born in the darkness. 37.6 rebounds, 5 assists. This Magic team is quietly in the background, I think one of these teams that can be an absolute wagon, not just in the NBA Cup. Whenever you look ahead to the postseason, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here, but the Magic have all of the pieces to make a run, I think, Fitz.
I mean, I love this. I just wish you'd given me like a Bane voice. Like, I can't do it. The darkness is your friend. Okay. I'm sorry I asked for that. That's on me. It's a great answer by you, but it's the wrong answer. The answer on this one is the Knicks for me. And I think part of this is just identity. I'm going to say this
bias.
A lot because I know 100%. East Coast, you're right. I'm not too far from the garden. But I keep going back to the thing that we've asked everybody that's come on the show early in the season, and that is, who are these Knicks? And one thing that I think we've learned as they've won 8 of their last 9 right now is that it's taken them a second to figure out exactly who they are and how they're going to work this. Now, Brunson, obviously, 35 points. You see there, 6-9 from 3, 13-19 overall. Like, he was lights out. There's no doubt about it. Brunson was lights out. That's part of what they rely on for sure. But you mentioned a stifling defense. Let me call the Knicks defense opportunistic, right place, right time defense. They were really able to separate that game last night in the second quarter where, frankly, Toronto couldn't get anything done. They were able to get some big defensive stops and then take advantage of it in the offensive side of the board. So, to me, part of what the Knicks have had to figure out is exactly how they're going to work under Mike Brown's system, how different this is going to look for them. And it's a bigger adjustment than we want to make it sometimes. Just figuring out what pace of play looks like when you're not running Tibbs' offense. Just figuring out who gets the ball where, what spacing looks like in the offense. And that's the stuff that I feel like they're really starting to capitalize on. So to me, having won 8 of 9 games after they figured themselves out, especially considering how they started the season, really not sure what their lineup was going to look like, some injuries in the preseason, not sure what their roster was going to look like. They've settled down enough that I feel really confident in the Knicks moving forward. That being said, I mean, ultimately, I think either of these teams are looking at this like there is a moment where players are excited to do this because they got the opportunity to get a big old bag of cash, Caroline. So, like, understanding that we're going to get the best of these two teams, and you just mentioned Bane. I mean, just a few days ago, Bane is out here throwing a basketball for $35,000. So we've seen angry Bane in a matchup.
Expensive basketball.
That is. We are going to get an angry matchup between these two teams.
100%. And my only hesitation with the Knicks is how much weight do we put into a win over this edition of the Toronto Raptors? They started the season so hot. You and I were talking about them about being a potential dark horse. But now they've cooled off. They lost 6 of their last 7. Look, I still think the Knicks are that team that can, again, make a run in the East. But I don't know how much weight I can carry into a Raptors team that's been limping down the stretch over the last several weeks.
So let me ask you this. If the Knicks win the NBA Cup, does that change their approach for the rest of the season? Because right now I feel like every single week we're going to have a big conversation. Giannis to the Knicks. Giannis to the Knicks every single week, right? If they go out and they win the NBA Cup, which would take a win over Orlando, followed by what you and I believe is likely going to be a win over Oklahoma. But even if it's a win over San Antonio or the Lakers, depending on how that plays out. Notice I didn't throw the Suns in that. But if it's a big win over a big Western Conference opponent, does that change in your mind the way the Knicks approach the rest of the season?
I think it should. Whenever you are, let's say if you slay the Oklahoma City Dragon, who we all view as a nearly infallible team, as the standard in the NBA, if you're able to take that team down, and not just on some random Tuesday night in December, but in the NBA Cup when there is a trophy and money and stakes on the line, I think you might have to reevaluate what you're doing. If the Knicks were even dipping their toes into the pool that is a potential Giannis move, if you're able to put this together and win the NBA Cup, and I know the NBA Cup is not a championship, but the NBA Cup is still something with stakes, do you not at some point have to step back and say, well, why would we disrupt what we have? Why would we disrupt what's working? Because in order for the Knicks to put together a trade package to make it worthwhile for Milwaukee to make this move, and look, if I'm Milwaukee, blow me the heck away. Like, you are going to absolutely have to blow me away in order for me to part ways with the face of our franchise and who brought us a championship. In order for the Knicks to do that, they're going to have to move on from Jalen Brunson or Cat and essentially leverage their entire future for Giannis. If you don't feel like you have to do that, if you feel like you have a team and a core and a unit in place to legitimately vie for a championship, why would you mortgage your future just to change things up and switch things up? I know it's for Giannis, one of the best players in the planet, but I don't think, let's say if the Knicks do win the NBA Cup, why would you make a move that you might not necessarily have to make?
I agree, and I think part of this is, for me, I'm a collector of information above and beyond everything else. So no matter what my opinion is, I try and collect as much information and then revisit my opinion constantly. If you'd have asked me a week ago, should the Knicks trade for Giannis, I think it's a pretty simple answer. Yeah, let Giannis go to the Knicks. It makes a ton of sense. I keep thinking about what Lon Murray told us on this show just a few days ago, which you can check out on YouTube, as he mentioned the fact that Giannis is an adjustment, right? But what that has me thinking about, and by that he was saying, hey, you don't just bring Giannis in to your organization. You bring Giannis into your organization, then you have to shape things around what Giannis does. So instead of just thinking about the addition of Giannis, which is what we all do in a video game society, I think what we also have to think about is the subtraction of pieces that it would take to get Giannis. If we were in this beautiful world where all any team had to do is give up a ton of draft picks, you're like, you know what, I'll give you every draft pick we have for the next 3 years, give me Giannis, okay? Now all of a sudden you're saying, okay, Giannis can figure it out, right? That's not the way any of this works. In all likelihood, in order to acquire Giannis, a team like the Knicks would have to give up multiple pieces of their team right now. Why are you giving up multiple pieces of your team right now when you've just found your rhythm, when you're winning 8 of 9, when everything seems to be flowing in a really good way? Why are you going to disrupt all that on the if-come, the possibility, the maybe, the might-could, that Giannis will come in and be able to quickly assimilate into that offense, into that team, in a way that moves them forward and never sets them back? This is one of those moments where, again, if anybody in the league had traded for Giannis in June, it's brilliant to me. If you're trading for Giannis in the middle of summer, great. Go out there and you just pattern what you're doing around it. But the Knicks have genuinely this season, let's go back and look from day one to where they are now. They've had to go through this sort of rocky figuring out of what they look like, what their offensive rhythm looks like, what their ball movement looks like, what Mike Brown looks like as a coach with these guys. You change those pieces drastically when you bring in Giannis for the good, but you also change those pieces drastically when it comes to comfort in the system, when you remove the pieces that it would take to get Giannis. That's why, none of this is in a vacuum. And if the belief is, well, the Knicks can somehow acquire Giannis for next to nothing, then what you're really telling me is that you think the Bucks are absolutely ignorant as a franchise. I don't. Yes. I don't think the Bucks are so desperate or stupid that they're simply going to move Giannis for peanuts, for cents on the dollar. So that means if they're looking for star players and draft picks, which is what they should be looking for, when you give up those star players, you've actually hurt the very thing that you finally got right now, which is rhythm and continuity.
Especially when there's no need to disrupt things. Who in New York is saying, oh, well, things are going way too well, so we have to uproot everything? I think so much of this Giannis to the Knicks conversation is catalyzed by the fact that Giannis said he wanted to be in New York. That's great. That's wonderful. But if the Knicks have a good thing going, then why mess it up now? And to your point about the Bucks, they don't even need just star players and draft picks. They need young players and draft picks. The Bucks are in such an uncomfortable position financially moving forward, and they don't have enough draft capital to dig themselves out of this hole. I think if I'm the Bucks organization and you have finally gotten to a point where trading Giannis Antetokounmpo feels palatable, because there was probably a point within the Bucks organization for the last couple of years that moving Giannis felt disgusting. It made you nauseous. Just the idea made you want to hurl. If you have finally gotten to that point in that organization, you can view Giannis as your ticket out of this, your ticket for the future, your golden goose to collect all of these picks and all of these young potential budding superstars that you can close the book on Giannis and start turning the page to a potential championship run in Milwaukee, it just looks different. Because Milwaukee is so stuck. Milwaukee has gotten themselves in a position where they are so stuck because they wanted to keep Giannis happy. And if Giannis isn't happy and you're not winning games and you don't have a clear path to a championship, you have to alleviate that pressure somehow. And in order to alleviate that pressure, you need a ticket to the future. That's exactly what Giannis can be. If the Knicks can't provide that, then why are you moving him to the Knicks? Why would you move him to the Knicks? Just because he wants to be a Knick?
We'll keep you updated as we get more information coming up next. Speaking of superstars, Darren Waller joins the show next. Darren Waller tweets out, there was a time you used to pray for problems you got today. He joins us now, superstar NFL player, musician, man of the people. Darren Waller joining us. We appreciate your time, man. Take me into your mindset. What are you thinking when you tweet something like that? How are you feeling? How's life going for you?
Man, yeah, it's just a lot of time reflecting, I'm 9 years in, 10 years since I've been drafted in the league, and just all the things that you can go through in your life through ups and downs with injuries, successes. You just have a more grateful perspective when you look back on things. And that was a lyric that I wrote in a song that I'll be putting out next year. So I feel like it was just fitting writing that and having that come out of me. It just really took me back a long ways, looking back into college, early days in the league, of just being like, man, like the things that I deal with today that feel like they may stress me out a bit, I was praying for those things to happen at one point in time. So it just keeps you in the right frame of mind.
Yeah, no doubt. That's very well said by you. And I do want to get into your music in just a bit, but let's talk about your team, the Miami Dolphins. They've won 4 straight now. You're just 2 games back of a wild card spot. So let's assume best case scenario. There is a path where your team can finish 10-7. What would that mean for you and for this locker room, considering the rocky start?
Yeah, I mean, if you just take the result out of the picture, whether it means a playoff berth or not, it's just – you look at the character of the individuals that make up the collective here, and you see lessons that you learn in seasons like this, going from 1-6 to being able and being kind of left for dead, and turning things around, knowing that you're capable of that. You're capable of being a part of a family that can turn things around. It's like there's so many life lessons, things that can propel you forward through whatever you experience in your life going forward. And I feel like that is the most valuable. But yeah, I mean, we want to take this thing as far as we can because it's a special group, and we've gotten to see that through all the adversity we faced this year.
Stick with that character for a second, because I'm obviously a Raiders fan. Everybody watches knows that. I was getting tattoos with Max Crosby years ago, and we were talking about the year that you guys came from nowhere, and it looked like the whole season was lost, and you went on a run. You were part of that team that miraculously qualified for the playoffs. What did you learn in that experience now that you can bring with you to your teammates through this experience?
What I learned back then is you can't underestimate the power of how close a team is, because when you get into moments like this December football and how important each and every snap, each and every drive is, each and every decision that you make, every step that you take, when you have guys that you're so close-knit with, you know how they move, you know how they think, and you're willing to put forth that effort because you're not willing to let that guy down. Like that stuff goes so far when you get to this point in the season now, because it's like, all right, we need your best. Like we need you to put it all out there and, dive even deeper into your prep, dive even deeper into taking care of your body. Cause we're getting, like it shows right there, deep in the season. So I think having that close knit group really shows up, especially when you need it the most.
Yeah, I've always been told, culture is easy when you're winning, but the real culture comes out, and culture is really important when things aren't necessarily going your way. And you don't turn your season around like you all have in Miami without having a really strong culture. And maybe it looked like early in the season, your head coach, Mike McDaniel, and your quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa, maybe weren't on the same page. How were those two able to get aligned and salvage this season?
Yeah, I mean, you look at when you get to that point in the season, there's no dodging or these conversations that need to be had as far as, okay, what can we do with our process to get us back in the position to start getting the results that we want. And I feel like these are guys, as well as all other people that are in leadership roles in this team and this organization, are willing to have those conversations because we know what we're capable of. We know what we were seeing through the competition that we were having in camp, and what these guys have been building throughout the entire offseason. I saw early on with the results that we were getting, I'm like, I know that there's so much more that this team can provide and really closing these games out. And so to be able to not get the results that you want and still be able to find a way to come closer and have those difficult conversations and moments, because we know we're all moving to the same place, is I feel like how you get a turnaround like this. I think the lights just automatically went off in this room.
You've played with some epic running backs. What makes Devon Achane special?
Yeah, Vaughn is rare because you think, people always classify backs into different, because Adrian Peterson is one of the great backs of my generation, where it's like you see like that total package, and you think it's usually in a body that's bigger than Vaughn's usually. Like most people are like, oh, Vaughn is a scat back, but you cut the tape on, this dude is running 2-3 hole runs. Like he's running between the tackles consistently and running with power, always falling forward after contact, and has like track speed, like legit SEC track speed. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like all that all together, and you can put him out wide. He's running routes. He could be wide receiver one if you need him to be, like just a skill set that I definitely haven't been around before.
Take me into the Dolphins locker room. Who's on the ox? Who's the jokester? Who's going to be the one galvanizing the team?
Who is not a jokester is a better question. I mean, just knowing like Bradley Chubb brings so much personality. You got Terrell Dotson. I mean, there's so many guys on this team that bring so much personality into the picture. Waddle, of course, like. Everybody is just it's constant jokes, constant laughs, but also like deep moments, conversations, like I was just telling you about. So it's a really fun group, man. A really young team that I'm glad that they're getting these opportunities to come together and really experience moments that help them mature this early on in their career. Because I know there's so many guys here that are going to be special guys. But yeah, I'll throw Bradley Chubb's name out there. That dude's a clown.
All right, so let's talk about some music. All right, I want to get into straight out. I'll be honest with you, okay? For me, I remember so distinctly my last show when I was touring was the Alaska State Fair, right? And 2 days later, I was on ESPN. And I don't think, for all the times that I'd ever put out music, I don't think I was ever more scared in my life than the first time I actually sat at a desk and talked about sports, because it's not what people knew me for. And I was afraid that, man, the judgment would come through. For you, everybody knows you as a football player. How hard is it for you to just break through the vulnerability that comes with putting out music?
Oh yeah, it's difficult. You're gonna get some bullets for sure. You're gonna have to be willing to take them too. Like I'm not even on my social media much for real, but I've seen the stick to football, like the old like where they're telling LeBron shut up and dribble. Those kind of vibes because it's just like people are like, no, wait, we know you as this. Whereas I've kept a lot of music behind the scenes for most of my career. Like the whole time I've been in the league, I've been making music. Like first few years, I wasn't showing it to anybody. Then I just had the courage enough to start releasing it. And I've had my journey with it through that. And I feel like you probably wouldn't have gotten the football player you've gotten out of me over the years without having that creative side to balance me out and really have that means of expression. So, I understand it's difficult, and just keep pushing through to be myself some people are going to be like, what is all this? And think it may be like a gimmick or, rapping for attention. But music is more so a way of expression for me. It's something that is deep in me. It's in my family. My great grandfather was a legendary jazz musician. So I feel that on a spiritual level that, my life just feels better. I feel more whole just in well-being of myself when I'm creating. And I feel like that balances out the athlete.
When do you know that it's time to put a song out? Like, because they're never done, right? So you're always tweaking them. When do you actually step back and say, okay, this one's ready for the world?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm trying to get more out of my head and just into, the feeling that I get in creating. And because I can definitely overanalyze. I mean, I don't think I've gotten to where I've gotten in my football career without being like so extra on the details and so hyper vigilant when it comes to things like that, and just being overly critical because I don't want to have any holes in what I'm doing. Whereas music, sometimes I feel like I can just be doing too much and just spinning my tires in the mud when really like I could play songs for people that I love and they're like, this is incredible, like what are we doing with this? And I'm just like, I don't know, this needs to be turned up 0.2 decibels. It's just like whatever. But yeah, just trying to when I feel like dropping, just drop and have like a plan around it as far as like some content and everything and what I want to do to, push the record and give it the effort that I put into it. But yeah, just try not to overthink it, I guess.
And you are also a big advocate for daily wellness, for mental health as well. So, what's one message that you would like to send to all of our listeners and to our audience about why that is so important for you and should be important for people on a daily basis?
Great question. I appreciate you asking that. I think the most important thing to take away is from my own experience. I heard the first time I heard Jim Carrey talking about I think he said something along the lines of, I wish everyone could get everything that they ever wanted to realize that it doesn't complete you or it's never enough. And I've been a guy that's like, okay, when I get to the league, I'll be great. When I get to my second contract, I'll be great. And it's like, oh, I'm getting to my third contract. I should be happy. But it's like there's these constant points along the road where I've checked all these boxes, but I still run into this wall of like, there's got to be more. There's got to be something deeper to life. And I feel like wealth is more so the state of mind that you find yourself in, the level of peace that you have, the quality of the relationships that are in your life, the purpose you have. Do you feel on fire about what you're doing? And I feel like all those things start from within. They don't start outside and come in like validation or achievement or climbing the ladder. Like those things are great. And I feel like we should go out and try to be our best. But if it's not starting from the inside out, it's not really going to feel like it's your life. I feel like many different stops, it hasn't felt like my life, which has, pressed the gas on the anxiety, the depressions, the wanting to use substances or things or people to numb myself from what I'm feeling on the inside that really needs to be healed. So I would just tell people to like find a way to start living from the inside out, to heal, to find that peace of mind that you want, the peace that you deserve. And that's where your life will feel full, no matter how much money you're making, no matter if you get 1 million followers, 1 million likes, 1 million clips, or 1,000, like it's your life and you feel good about it. That should be all that matters.
That's incredibly well said by you, man. Before we get you out of here, got to ask you, you stepped away from the game and then came back. You've probably heard the news at this point. Phillip Rivers coming back, 44 years old after 5 years away from the game. What advice would you give Phillip on how to handle that?
I think we broke that news to him.
What?
Did we break that news?
Yeah,
44-year-old
I'm telling you,
Rivers
like
signed with the Colts.
I am like
He's signed
living
with the
under
Colts
a rock.
practice squad. This is amazing.
Oh, that's fire. Phillip Rivers is a legend. Hey, advice to give to Phillip Rivers, bro, I'm just out here winging it. I mean, just trust your instincts like you always have, man. Enjoy your life, bro. It's yours. We only get one of these, so do your thing, man. I'm pulling for you. You're a legend.
Darren, where can everybody check out the music? When are you dropping new stuff?
Yeah, I mean, check out my Spotify, is my government name, Darren Waller. Apple Music as well. We got music since 2017 on there. But yeah, once the season ends, top of the year, probably around mid-January, I'm planning on dropping again. I got solo records I've been itching to put out that I've been recording over the last couple of years, and a joint project with my engineer, who's like a super talented artist, engineer, producer as well. His name is J-Rod. We got a project called Cadillac Problems that we're excited about releasing too. So I got a lot coming. And I hope y'all enjoy it.
Man, this is incredible. A big fan, and I'm gonna have my people hit your people. We're gonna put string section. I'm putting strings on one of your songs. That's the new Darren Waller. I'm like, come on. We appreciate your time, man. Congratulations on coming back and kicking ass with the Dolphins. It's fun to watch. Most importantly, congratulations on finding your peace. It's a really beautiful thing to watch your journey, man. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys. Love the show. Love what y'all are doing.
That's great stuff from Darren Waller. Follow him. Keep checking out the music. In the meantime, coming up next, we will figure out somehow, some way who's going to win the Heisman. We'll try. The 2025 Heisman Trophy finalists are set. Jeremiah Love, Fernando Mendoza, Diego Pavia, Julian saying who should win the prestigious trophy. That's an easy question with a complicated answer, because this season, Caroline, has been without, for the most part, a staggering Heisman moment. I think we can all agree on that, right? So, like, there hasn't been this over and over and over again. This guy has done this thing that everybody has said, oh, my God. So when you look at this award, knowing that we're all trying to figure it out, it looks like it could end up being the closest of all time. This is what we're going to do. We're going to figure out who should win and who will win. All right? So let's start with who you think should win, Caroline Fenton.
I think Diego Pavia should win the Heisman. And look, maybe there hasn't been that one premier Heisman moment from any of these guys. And it's because it doesn't feel like there is that one singular runner away with the Heisman. But I think what Diego Pavia did against Tennessee, that was his Heisman moment. Absolutely. You're going into Neyland Stadium, an incredibly difficult place to play, a place where Tennessee has not lost very often under Josh Heupel. Going in there and throwing for one touchdown, rushing for a touchdown, beating Tennessee in the manner that they did, the way that he was able to slice and dice that Tennessee defense through the air and on the ground, and really just the entire campaign that he put together for Vanderbilt this entire season. I view the Heisman, and we can view it different ways. It's kind of the way we view, NFL MVP. You can say best player on the best team, or quarterback on the best team, or most impactful player. If you take Diego Pavia away from Vanderbilt, Vanderbilt is the exact same team that's been the butt of all of our jokes in the SEC throughout my entire lifetime. You add Diego Pavia in, and all of a sudden, Vanderbilt's a legitimate playoff contender. Think about that. Think about where Vanderbilt has come from and now where they are. And you can make that exact same argument for Indiana. I totally and completely understand that. But Diego Pavia is, I believe, one of the sole reasons, because no one is just one sole reason, but one of the biggest, and one of the sole reasons why Vanderbilt is relevant in college football. So I think it should be Diego Pavia.
Look, that's a really compelling case, and I think you have a hard time telling the story of this season without talking about Diego Pavia, the billboard, the personality, sort of the football player, obviously, what it has meant for the turnaround in Vandy. I agree with all that, but in a year where I can't find one defining moment, and I do agree with you that you could make a compelling case for the Neyland Stadium, but I can't find that one, oh my God, this guy. So then I just look at it and say, who do I think is the toughest player to take out of their game plan? Who do I think is the absolute most unstoppable player in college football? If the question is a very simple, who has been the best player in college football this year? It's Jeremiah Love to me. So the hard part is that running backs rarely have Heisman moments, especially because if we're being real, Notre Dame loses their first two games and then they go on a run against lesser opponents, right? So can I make a 56-yard run against a lesser opponent, a Heisman moment? Maybe. Can I make a 48-yard run against a lesser opponent, a Heisman moment? Maybe. But I don't think that there's a development of C.J. Carr if it weren't for Jeremiah Love. And every single team, every single week, as incapable as they may have been of doing it, came in with one thing that they had to do to beat Notre Dame. All you had to do to beat them was figure out a way to take away their best player, and nobody could do it. Now, unfortunately for Jeremiah, last year we saw absolutely superhuman numbers from Ashton Jeanty, and Ashton didn't win, right? So there's this sort of concept of Ashton Jeanty didn't win, then how do you do this? But the highest graded running back, all of the metrics will point to Jeremiah Love being a great player. It's hard for running backs to cut through. But in a year where I didn't see a quarterback that dominated my mindset, then I instead simply go to, if there isn't one big, oh my God moment, then give me the best player. And I do believe maybe not the best personality, maybe not the best billboard, maybe not the best sales pitch for college football, but the best player week in and week out, the hardest person to take out of his team's game plan week in and week out, Jeremiah Love. So if I had a vote, I would strongly consider that. That being said, Caroline, who will win the award?
It'll be Fernando Mendoza. And even though I just made this case for Diego Pavia, Fernando Mendoza is absolutely 1,000% deserving of the Heisman Trophy. If you watch the Big Ten championship game, what Fernando Mendoza did against that Ohio State defense, which I think will be in consideration for one of the best defenses in the history of college football. Like, let's just call it like it is. That's how good Ohio State's defense really is. Fernando Mendoza, after getting banged up in the first quarter, was able to come back and do what he needed to do to win that football game. Indiana's first Big Ten championship ever. I think Curt Cignetti deserves a lot of credit, all of the credit, for the best and most dramatic turnaround that we've ever seen in the history of this sport. And Fernando Mendoza is a huge part of that. No longer is the Indiana team of last year that was like a really cute and fun story. No, this team's a national championship contender. And Fernando Mendoza is a massive part of that. So the numbers, the impact, the game that we just saw from him, because let's point out and let's remember that the Heisman Trophy voting process has changed just slightly, where voters cannot cast their votes until after the conference championship games. We didn't see Diego Pavia or Jeremiah Love in conference championship games. We saw Fernando Mendoza pull off maybe the biggest win that we've seen in this entire season in taking down Ohio State to secure the #1 overall seed. I mean, that's impactful. So I think it will be Fernando Mendoza. And if it is, I have no problem with that whatsoever.
I sat on my couch before the Big Ten championship game, and I put my fuzzy blanket over me. I called the dogs over.
Cozy.
I grabbed my Diet Pepsi. Yeah, it was a Pepsi right in the corner of
what
my
a
section,
lovely
as I love to
evening.
be. It really was perfect. Had just the perfect glimmer lights of the Christmas tree in the background. I looked at the TV, and as the game started, I said, "All right, show me what you got." That's exactly what Fernando Mendoza did. How many Heisman voters sat down to that game and said, "All right, show me what you got"? And the funny thing is, Ohio State fans have, I think, rightfully spent much of the last couple of months saying, "Why is no one paying attention to us?" I think that's a fair statement to make because we became obsessed with other stories. Well, if that's the angle we're going to take, that this was an underappreciated #1 team, this is a wildly underappreciated now #1 team, because I don't think Mendoza's got near the hype for beating Ohio State that he should. I'm not sure the Big Ten championship game ever will have consequence realistically, knowing that both of the teams still go to the college football playoff. But when I saw him on the opening drive just get hammered to the ground, hammered to the ground, and all of a sudden we see his brother in a quarterback position, and I think, well, there we go. I wanted to see it. Didn't even make it through one drive, and he comes back in and plays that game. Fernando Mendoza did all the things that you want to see good quarterbacks do. He made plays off schedule. He saved plays that were broken. He also made the reads that were there. He took the plays that were there. He dumped down when he needed to. He was aggressive when he needed to. He played an incredibly clean football game against, to your point, the best college football defense we'll see this year, and one of the best we've seen in a very, very long time. We walked into that game believing Ohio State had a distinct advantage because their defense was that good. And Fernando Mendoza never looked overwhelmed. He never looked aw shucks. The most aw shucks moment for Fernando Mendoza was the interview afterwards. And I realized that the interview was a little bit, for some people, they thought it was a little dorky. It was a little whatever. What I did, what I saw on the field during the precious is, but what I saw over the course of that game was a quarterback that had killer instinct, that absolutely just had a knowledge on his offense that was impeccable. I watched that was the closest thing we've seen to a Heisman moment. Fernando Mendoza has to win it because I don't see that moment for Julian Sayin. I don't see that moment for Jeremiah Love. The closest you could give me would be Pavia. I honestly think Pavia is going to be second in the voting when this thing is all said and done.
I would agree with you. I think it's Mendoza and Pavia. And important to point out that you picked Jeremiah Love as your pick. I picked Diego Pavia. We both agree that Fernando Mendoza will win it. Who we haven't brought up is Julian Sayin. And look, I want to give Julian Sayin all of his flowers. This is his first year as a starter, and he's completing nearly 80% of his passes. That's the kind of efficiency that is absolutely unheard of. 31 touchdowns, just 6 picks. Julian Sayin has been darn near close to perfection this season, but I don't really have any problem if Julian Sayin comes in 3rd or 4th in voting, because I don't believe Julian Sayin's the best player on his team. I don't think Julian Sayin's the 3rd or 4th or even 5th best player on his team, to be honest with you. I think Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate are more impactful players. I think Bo Jackson, the running back, is a more impactful player. I think Caleb Downs is probably the best player in America. Sonny Styles, I think, is a better player, maybe more impactful player than Julian Sayin. So, I mean, that's what, 5 or 6 players that I just named that I would put above, if I'm drafting tomorrow, that I'm going to pick above Julian Sayin. So this isn't anti-Ohio State sentiment in the slightest. I would be 0% surprised if Ohio State goes on yet another run in the playoff and wins another national championship. But how can I give Julian Sayin a trophy for the best player in college football when I don't even think he's the best player on his own team?
We will find out Saturday how it all plays out from New York. Coming up next, we got a ton of college basketball to get through from one of the best in the business. Dalen Cuff joins the show next. Cameron Boozer of Duke is the only Division I or NBA player in the last 30 seasons to have an 8-game span with, check this, 175 or more points, 75 or more rebounds, 25 or more assists, 10 or fewer turnovers, and an undefeated record. He did it in the first 8 games of his career. Good God. So we're going to break it down now with Dalen Cuff, ESPN, friend of the show, friend of all of ours. Dalen, welcome to the show for the first time. We appreciate you hanging out with us. Makes sense of Boozer. Clear favorite just 8 games in to win the Wooden Award. What have you seen from him that makes him absolutely so epic?
Well, Fitzy, I do have to correct you. I'm not with ESPN anymore. They canned your boy. They didn't want to re-sign your voice. Let's make sure we're clear on that. We have a little something. We have a little experience we've had similar in the past. So anyway, I digress.
I thought, but your Twitter bio still
And with
says
that-
it, so I wasn't sure. Okay, go ahead.
The Twitter bio still says that?
Yeah,
So that's on you.
Oh,
I
jeez, I got up. Well, new thing I got to do. Update as soon as this is over. My bad. I updated the Instagram.
Uno
one.
reverse card.
I have other contracts. I'll put those out there now. My fault. My bad. But thank you for helping me. You guys are helping me today now. What makes him so good? The guy's a winner, first and foremost. He knows exactly. He's won 4 straight high school championships. That's never been done in the state of Florida. Obviously, his twin brother contributed a lot to those 2 and other players on that team, but he was the leader. And this guy understands how to win, understands how to play. His father, Carlos, has kind of taught him that from a very young age. Like, you will be a star, but you need to learn how to play the game the right way. And he plays it the right way. So at times, even in that game last week, they had to have a shot, against I think it was Illinois at home. The game at home had that pick and pop. And he throws it back to Evans. A lot of guys would have taken that shot or tried to turn the corner. He didn't. He drew 2. He did his job. He threw it back to Evans. Evans bangs a triple. It's a big play. So this is a team in which they're built around him. He understands how to play, makes the right play at all time. He's got all the physical tools, got the mental tools, and he's done it. I think there was something going around a couple of days ago about, well, he can't anonymous scout said he can't deal with big time athletes in size. He's done this against other high major programs. He did it against Florida in that game I'm talking about at Duke. That was against one of the best front lines in the country. It's not really the knock. Will his game translate to being an NBA number 1 option, being the best player in an NBA team? That remains to be seen, because he's not overly athletic. He's not a guy that's a high riser, but he has all the skills, all the intangibles, all the tools to be a great pro. And right now, he is an outstanding college basketball player.
And this is the year of outstanding young freshmen. We talk about Cam Boozer. We can't talk about great freshmen without also talking about AJ DeBonsa. I mean, he popped off last night in the Garden. 28 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, and a buzzer beater win over Clemson. What have you noticed and taken away from AJ DeBonsa, not just from last night, but in his young career so far?
If my man and his team could play 40 minutes, they could beat anybody in the country. They continually put themselves in holes and then find their way out of it. Like last night, his last 20 were outstanding. The first 20 as a team were not good. I mean, they were down 22 points, and I think he had 2 buckets in the first half. And now, granted, he doesn't force the game right away, but you saw, and everybody saw in the second half what he can do. His shot-making prowess, his ability to create for others. He is a willing passer, a capable passer, and he also has a high understanding of the game. But he is a very strong athlete. He's great in transition. He has your prototypical size in terms of his length and his height and his build to put more muscle mass on. He's going to be an outstanding pro. But right now, I think we saw a glimpse of what he still can be. People forget how much players improve, particularly freshmen improve, from the beginning of the year to the end when they are well coached, which Kevin Young is, and his staff is outstanding, and they have good players around them. Like, he's going to continue to get better. And yet last night, I think he contributed or scored on like 93% of their points. Contributed by scoring or assisting like 93% of their points in the second half. He took the game over. And I'm excited to see him continue to develop and also start the game with some urgency, and his team start the game with some urgency at times, because they did the same thing against UConn. They got buried against UConn, came battling back, but they fell short against a very good Husky team. Last night, they overcame the Tigers from Clemson.
All right, so I'll ask you an impossible question, because right now when you look at DeBonsa, I love asking Dalen impossible questions. We're going to put Boozer, DeBonsa, and I'm going to put Cooper Flagg all in the same statement. Which one of those 3 ends up at the end being the best pro?
Ooh, well, the hard part is we have a little bit of return on Cooper already, and it's been up and down. So there's some questions. There's not questions there. That's just the same thing. You got to adjust to the NBA game. Cooper is also really young. He just turns 19, I think, next week or 2. He turned 18 in the beginning of his high school season. The best pro, I think, if I'm putting money on it, I would still lean Cooper Flagg. I still think he has a unique skill set and size and ability that doesn't come around very often. AJ, as talented as he is, there are other wings that resemble him, and he could be, if he has a Paul George-esque career, Granted, I know everyone wants to crush Paul George's postseason. I get you. I'm kind of right there with you. But as far as his skill set and what he's done, and he's won gold medals, he's been in championships, game and finals. He could do that. He could be that kind of guy, a top 10, top 12 player in the NBA. I think Cooper could too. I think I have just slightly lean more to Cooper. Cameron, again, this is where I think we can stereotype looking at what we've seen in the past and be like, well, is he athletic enough at the next level to be a consistent all-star? Or will he have a career like his dad's was pretty sick when you think about it? What, 3 or 4-time all-star, won a gold medal with the Redeem team, has played in postseasons. He may have a similar career to his father, which is no knock on him at all. I mean, God, I would have loved to have that career. But will he be the number one option on a team and be a top 12 player? That remains to be seen. This game continues to develop and change where skill is more rewarded than just athleticism. He's has all the skill, but how will his body and game translate at that next level? I think his is it's the hardest one to see a direct connection to being an all NBA player. It's easy to see with Cooper. It's easy to see with AJ.
Well, we're going to play the impossible question game. I have one too. We have Michigan, who just won Players Era. We have Arizona, who has 4 ranked wins. We have Duke, led by Cam Boozer, who is squarely in the conversation as one of the best teams in the country. So I will ask you, who is the best team in the country?
Well, Michigan and Duke do play, and I love this, in a non-conference game in, I think, the beginning of February. I think that game's coming. So that's going to be pretty dope that they do that. I love that John Shire has taken, and other coaches too, have taken the mantle to say, hey, we're going, and Tommy Lloyd, Arizona does it a ton, obviously. That's why they have 4 ranked wins. We're going to play anybody, anywhere, and that's going to help our game, the college game, get some attention when you look at November, December. I mean, my God, guys, they started the season on a Monday against Monday Night Football. What the hell are we doing here? Like, what planet are you on that you think people are going to understand that basketball has started? But Florida played it. The reigning champs played Arizona against Monday Night Football. Granted, I was the small set of people watching the basketball game, not the football game. But this is what you need. You need more coaches looking to do this, which they are, but in better time slots and windows so people see them. Sorry for the slight digression. I think Michigan is the best team that's playing the best right now. Arizona probably has the best resume. I would think Michigan has put the best performances on paper and has shown us a ceiling that I don't think anybody else can hit. Now, that said, they barely beat Wake Forest at home early in the season. They barely escaped from TCU on the road. They should have lost that game. I can't unsee those games. So to say that they are by far the best team in the country, I can't say that. I think it's close by the fact that they showed us something that I don't think anybody else could get to at this point in time, or we haven't seen yet. Arizona could get there for sure. Duke could get there. I think Duke's maybe a little bit different when you're relying on some freshmen and some younger players. I just went through how important Cam is to that team. There is more help and there are more bodies for Yaxel Lendeborg at Michigan. He's got all types of help around him. Pete, an outstanding freshman, but he's got Jaden Bradley, one of the best closers in the country in Arizona. So I think they have more established pieces and roles around them, whereas Duke may have a higher ceiling. We just haven't seen it quite yet.
Let's talk about the opposite of good teams. Kentucky 5-4 right now. So all of a sudden, everybody's calling for Mark Pope's head. I mean, are there fair concerns? Do you think that Pope should be on the hot seat?
Oh, hell no. That's people. What's wrong with us? He literally took a team last year in his first year that nobody thought necessarily was going to be good, and they were awesome to watch. Didn't guard a lot, but they had a good run, had a good season. And now the problem with that is this year it's all the money invested. When the money doesn't invest and doesn't return the investment, everybody questions it. It's roughly a $20 million roster. Now, granted, Jaden Lowe, your best guard, has been hurt mostly. Yeah, that's a lot of money, brother. He's been hurt a lot. He's been in and out of the lineup. Jaden Quaintance is a potential lottery pick. He hasn't played at all. So that is part of the problem. All 5-4 is not created the same. Like Florida's 5-4, the defending champs. Now, their 4 losses are to all teams that could be Final Four or Elite 8 teams, and they were in tight games. And they're trying to find themselves with 2 new guards. That you can see, okay, they've had some challenges, but they're still capable of getting to really high places. Kentucky's looked really bad in some games against other high major opponents, whether it's Michigan State, North Carolina. They've been kind of worked, and that's a problem. Their pieces don't fit right now. You have guys that aren't, and this is what problem for Coach Pope is. He's trying to coach effort and intensity, and he's blaming himself. I love his accountability. Keeps saying it's on me. I got to figure it out, which is true, somewhat. It is on his guys. These dudes, Otega Owe is a preseason All-American. My man looks lost out there. The last month of last season, he was an absolute killer. He needs to play with the aggression and the desire on both sides of the ball to compete. He needs to lead. He needs to play. And you need other guys that are willing to accept a role and do things the right way. Denzel Aberdeen, a transfer from Florida, who won a championship, came off the bench for the Gators last year. I mean, my man takes so many bad shots. Johnson, the freshman, I don't think he's seen a good shot, but he loves to just hoist them up. Like they are a disconnected group on both ends of the floor. So there are concerns. I don't think if there's a concern for Mark Pope's job, people have lost their freaking mind. Guy's a great coach and is going to do a great job there and did it last year. This year's team, the pieces don't fit. It is a telling tale for anybody. Just because you spend the money does not mean you're going to have a good team. Team matters here, and they're trying to figure this thing out. I'm still hopeful because they have some good pieces, and if they get healthy, things do change. I mean, Lowe's an NBA player, Quayton's an NBA player. You take two leaguers off of any team in college, you're going to have a problem. So let's see when they get healthy what they look like.
Let's stick on some maybe potentially premature panic in the SEC. Florida falls to 5-4 after a great game against UConn, but 3 of their 4 losses, UConn, Duke, Arizona, like you can live with some of those losses, but Florida wants to be one of those teams. In order to be one of those teams, you have to beat those teams. So how would you diagnose why Florida is dropping some of these games against the heavyweights in college basketball?
It's their 2 new guards. They're trying to figure that out too. Like their front line is some of the best players in the country. Thomas Houck, the guy's he's an NBA player, and last night was on display again. Like I think late game they got to look to him a little bit more. I think they give the ball to Boogie Flan and kind of rely on him. And I think Houck is maybe times your best option to get you a bucket when you really need it or get to the foul line. Alex Condon's great. Chinilu's great. It's the same 3 bigs, and then Micah Condon, the same 4, Micah Handlock, and the same 4 bigs that won a national championship last year. One of the best offensive rebounding teams. They are skilled. They're talented. Their 2 new guards are the challenge. There were 3 guards they lost to the NBA. Walter Clayton, All-American, Will Richard, Elijah Martin. Those guys are studs. And Martin's having a great start to his NBA career as well. Studs. So when you lose those guys, who do you replace them with? Well, Boogie Flam was a freshman at Arkansas last year, was hurt most of the year. That team got better when he was out of the lineup injured. Sometimes a telltale sign. My man is learning how to share the ball and play within a construct of other players that are good around him. Xavier Lee, the transfer from Princeton, I've watched that kid for many years. I think he's a potential NBA player. He struggled a little bit with jumping from the Ivy League into the high majors, just in terms of how he plays and controls his body around the rim. But it really has affected his personality, partially as we just said about the money. There's so much paid attention. He got $2 million roughly to leave Princeton a year early and go to Florida. And he has not delivered early on. His shooting percentage at one point was 23% from the three-point line. He looked down. Last night, he played well. I think Billis even said this. He was smiling. I said this when he was they played TCU in a game a couple weeks ago. He looked like the kid I saw at Princeton. He was enjoying playing again. He had joy on his face. He was having fun. Because in some of those other games, my man looked downtrodden. He looked like he wanted to crawl into a hole. So he has to understand how to handle that microscope and handle the attention that everybody is now saying he cost $2 million. We've seen other players, Coleman Hawkins last year at Kansas State, really broke down around that and said it much in a press conference. It was hard for him to carry that pressure that pros deal with all the time. The college guys are going to have to learn to deal with because you get the money, you're going to get even harder critiques now. So Lee's got to be better. He's got to be more efficient. He's got to be better defensively. And I think they still can get to a really high level. But the question is, how good will those 2 guards be? Because that's as far as they're going to go. Because the bigs are outstanding. You know exactly what they're going to give you. If those 2 guards can develop, be more efficient, effective, and especially Boogie not maybe settle for such questionable shots at times, they have a chance to still go very, very far. Because as you mentioned, Caroline, they were right there in those losses by and large to the best teams they played. And the 3 you just mentioned, as I said before in the previous answer, those are Final Four teams. So they want to be in that class. They're in that class. But yes, you need to win some of those games, but they're right there.
What class is UConn in for you?
Championship. And there's no 2 ways about it. You have the best coaches of the game. You have a guy that I'll tell you. So I watched my alma mater, the Lions, my right shoulder here. The Columbia Lions played at UConn a couple weeks ago. So we take my daughter up there. Lyra's 7 years old. We go with Kels. We're excited to see the game. Lyra watched the cheerleaders more than the game. I digress. But this is the maniacal approach that Danny Hurley takes. Because you could see defensively, they started real slow. Silas Demery Jr. is a transfer from Georgia. He's asking more of him defensively. Malachi Smith, the transfer from Dayton, trying to understand how we play. And then we're going to be committed. Terrace Reed was still healthy at this point in time. Braylon Mullins was injured. Guys, he challenged to play up 28 points, 31.5-point line, with 90 seconds to go. The coach's challenge now exists in college basketball where you can challenge an out-of-bounds play. Maniacal. And I bump into him literally on the sidelines afterwards. And I was like, dude, what's up with the challenge? Like, oh, God, I don't know. We were sucked. The refs sucked. We sucked. They just beat us by 30. He's challenging plays with their 90 seconds to go when you're up 28. This is how he approaches the game, but you're already seeing the results. Defensively, the team I saw in the beginning of November is completely different than now. Malachi Smith, how he's playing offensively and defensively, completely different than now. they've already grown a lot in a month, and they've dealt with injuries. Terrace Reed Jr. did play last night. Braylon Mullins still coming back, had foul trouble. But that talented freshman, he ended up being a lottery pick. Alex Caravan continues to make massive shots, and he made some big plays defensively. Even when they were trying to attack him, he is a defensive liability, but he made a big block and then came down and made a big three, one of the key moments of the game. Solo Ball is starting to shoot the ball like he did last year. He's the best three-point shooter in the Big East. You have size, you have physicality, you've got great guard play, you have the best coach in the business, arguably. This team is a championship-bound team again, and they've already proven it, beating incredibly high-level opponents. And even walking into Fog Allen, I get it. Darren Peterson did not play for Kansas a couple weeks ago, last week when they played. But that's a hell of a win. You walk into Fog Allen, you walk out with a dub. That's impressive, especially when Terrace Reed did not play in that game. So when they are fully healthy, have their full complement of guys, this team is a championship caliber team yet again.
Yeah, and coaches definitely wired different. Follow him on social media at Dalen Cuff. Dalen, always appreciate your time, my friend. Give my best to Kelsey, and we appreciate you hanging out with us.
Anytime, guys, and I will edit my Twitter profile immediately. Thank you.
There we go. Appreciate
Thank you very much.
It's great stuff from
Thanks,
Dalen
Dalen.
Cuff. Coming up next, is it great stuff from the Dodgers, or are the Dodgers bad for baseball? We'll give you a surprising answer on the other side. Shohei won the Associated Press Male Athlete of the Year for the fourth time, breaking a tie with Michael Jordan. He now ties Lance Armstrong, LeBron James, Tiger Woods for most wins among all time among male honorees. He's an absolute legend, an unquestioned superstar, but he certainly has quite the supporting cast of stars around him, Caroline Fenton, and he just got some more. All-Star Edwin Diaz added in free agency, adding one more name to the long list. I mean, this one had Mets fans losing their mind, has Dodgers fans absolutely swaggy walking around. This is a contract. It's the largest annual value to a relief pitcher in Major League Baseball history at $23 million per year, $69 million. Nice. Are the Dodgers' aggressively spending habits, are those spending habits actually bad for baseball? What do you think?
I think it'll only be bad for baseball if, and honestly, at this rate, when it gets to a point where things are just totally and completely uncompetitive, when the Dodgers just totally and completely sleepwalk their way to a World Series. And I know they kind of did that in the NL on their path to the World Series this past season, but watch the Dodgers and Blue Jays series this past year and tell me that was bad for baseball. Tell me those weren't incredibly intriguing and fun games. Tell me when you stayed up until 3 o'clock in the morning watching all of the extras and what was that, game 4, game 5, whatever game it was, and tell me that's bad for baseball. So I do think that on this path, we're getting to a point where maybe the Dodgers are just outspending everyone at such a high clip that nobody else can keep up. But until then, I'm here for it. I'm a Cardinals fan. I am born and raised in St. Louis. The Cardinals were my first love. I have Cardinals memorabilia behind me. Okay, part of me should hate that the Dodgers are this dominant, but I just don't, because I think overall Shohei and the World Series and the story of the Dodgers, whether you love them or you hate them, they're a story and an enemy. All of those things are good for the sport of baseball.
This is not some wild moment where the Dodgers outspent the White Sox to steal a superstar. Let's not get it twisted. Some important facts here. Number one, in 2025, the highest payroll, according to Spotrac.com, in all of baseball was the Dodgers at $350 million. The second highest payroll was the Mets at $342 million. $8 million is all that separated the spending last year of the Dodgers and the Mets. If you look at this year's projected spending as of right now, as we're recording this, there's about a $9 million difference between the Dodgers and the Mets. We can't sit here and say, oh my God, how could they turn around and do that? It's amazing. The number one payroll outspent the number two payroll to bring over somebody that fixes their biggest issue. So, I'm sorry if the Dodgers are just doing business better than the rest of you. Let's keep in mind, again, there was not a massive spending difference between the Mets and the Dodgers last year, but there sure as hell was a massive difference between how the two team seasons finished, right? So what the Dodgers did is they went out with one glaring weakness that we all talked about, and they said, you know what? We got the money. We'll spend the money. And that's what every fan base wants every team to do. This isn't a Dodgers problem. This is a White Sox problem. And yes, I'm picking on the lowest payroll in Major League Baseball. But the fact is, you're bringing in cash hand over foot. So go out and spend it. And if you're not willing to spend it and somebody else in your sport is, that's too damn bad. And at the end of the day, for every single person that sits there and says, the Dodgers are killing baseball, what happened last year in the World Series? We all flocked to it. We watched it. Why? Because it was the Dodgers, and not just the Dodgers, but the Dodgers with superstar after superstar. When every single at-bat feels like a household name, people flock to watch it. Does it make baseball more boring? I guess if you're a purist, maybe that's your argument, but certainly the ratings don't support that. The absolute meteoric shift in profitability, attendance, and TV ratings overall of baseball that we've talked about, to the point that we've actually had conversations that the NBA needs to learn from Major League Baseball, because Major League Baseball has listened to fans and they have fixed their product. That's a real conversation we had on this show a couple of months ago. So now I want to turn around because of one signing and say that the Dodgers are ruining it. The Dodgers aren't doing anything. The Dodgers are simply going out there saying, we got the money, we'll spend the money. And if you want to compete, you can spend the money too. And if you don't want to compete, then that's up to you. And if you don't want to do that, then your fans should stop supporting you until you are forced to spend the money. But again, Caroline, this was not Robin Hood. They did not steal from the poor in this process. There was any of these things didn't happen. They went out. The number one team outbid the number two team in spending and got better. If you don't like it, Mets fans, figure out how to get better results out of the roster that you've spent your wild amounts of cash on.
And when we look back at the World Series from this past year, I feel like there was this impression of this cute, plucky little Blue Jays team. No, the Blue Jays were 7th in spending in Major League Baseball. So we're seeing, the return on your investments. And to your point, good teams are not bad for sports. Bad teams are bad for sports. The A's are bad for baseball. The White Sox are bad for baseball. The Pittsburgh Pirates are bad for baseball because they have ownerships that don't want to spend the money and don't want to invest in order to make those teams competitive against the big bad Dodgers of the world. So I get it. I hear you that every single time the Dodgers will make a transaction and bring in yet another giant onto that roster because their roster is riddled with him. I'm looking around and saying, where is everybody else spending? Why aren't the A's and the Pirates and the White Sox spending? Because when you look at viewership, People want to watch the Dodgers. People want to watch the Yankees. People want to watch the Cubs. That's not just because those are, elite premier franchises in the game of baseball. That's because those are good teams. Nobody wants to watch the A's and nobody wants to watch the White Sox. It's the same thing in football. Sure, everybody's pissed off that the Chiefs are winning everything and are in the Super Bowl every single year. But we just saw a game featuring the Kansas City Chiefs be the most viewed game in the history of the National Football League. You know who's watching the Raiders? Fitz. Literally just Fitz. He's the only person watching Raiders games. So sure, we can be mad all day long that these teams are winning everything and getting all of these players and spending all of this money, but those are the teams that you end up watching. And that's good for the sport when your eyes are on the sport.
I want to see if we can pull a tweet up that they had on the screen a second ago from Yankees analytics nerd. I think it was that it was calling out the Dodgers, because this to me is part of the entire problem. Like, this narrative that the Dodgers are killing baseball when you've got Yankees. I admire the Dodgers, man. Just spend on all the best players you can get until somebody stops you. Like, at this point, look, yes. And guess what? Again, I'll go back to Spot Track. If you look at last year, the Yankees spent $305 million on their payroll. The Dodgers spent $350. The Yankees were the fourth biggest payroll. The Dodgers were the first. So then I went to Forbes, because Forbes values these teams every year. The most valuable Major League Baseball team in 2025 was not the Dodgers at $6.8 billion. That was the second most, right? The most valuable team was the Yankees at $8.2 billion. Like, if you are a Yankees fan or a Mets fan and your argument is that the Dodgers are spending baseball into a problem, shut up. Like, just stop crying. At some point, man, if you want to tell me that this is an argument from small market teams that really can't compete, that really want to have, like, if you're Cleveland, if you're Tampa Bay, if you're Miami, I'm looking at teams with lower payrolls, and you're saying, man, we just can't compete. Maybe over time I'll listen to that, but also know your role. Like, at some point, you just don't matter as much as the big brands. Like, if Miami goes out and they spend, if St. Louis, you're a team you love, if St. Louis goes out and spends, they have a rabid fan base. That's one thing. I'll give them that. But if you start talking about the Angels had Shohei and nobody paid attention, right? The Angels had Shohei and nobody really gave a damn. And I don't think that that's going to change if the Angels suddenly win a World Series. What brings people to the sport are huge brands. And if those huge brands choose to spend more money, I have no problem at all about. In fact, I'm just going to say now, go get Scooble. Go get every single player. Go get every single player you possibly can and just globally dominate the sport. I'm in for all of it, Caroline.
Well, I'll pump the brakes right there. One thing that I think is great about baseball is there is so much parity. Like, the Dodgers are the first back-to-back champions in my lifetime. It doesn't happen very often. And I think that's one thing that so many people have been so frustrated with in other sports is these long-term dynasties. So I do think at some point there will be a point where we need to pump the brakes a little bit on the Dodgers, but I'm not there yet.
I'm not pumping anything. I'm all gas, no brakes. We'll keep going all gas, no brakes on the NBA coming up next. Danny Green going to break down the league. What's happening? What's he seen? Players that are washed. We're going to get into all of it with Danny next.
people expect him to be traded by deadline, but with how things are happening with his body, he might have to wait till the end of the year. I feel like teams, especially the teams that he wants to go to, don't want to jump ship or take a chance right away. Because even though you become a Knick, I don't want to trade for Giannis and have to still make another move or two to be in contention. I want to trade for Giannis and be right in contention right away.
That's Danny Green from inside the green room, 3-time NBA champion, NCAA champion, friend. Danny Green, man, we appreciate your time. Let's dig into that, okay? Because you were just talking about Giannis, and this has been a heated, raging thing. Like, I feel like everybody playing 2K, right? We all want to trade Giannis at this point.
Yeah, everybody's
to your point,
GM
you stand
mode.
by it, right? Like, right, exactly. So, are the Knicks better off standing pat this season in your mind than they would be trading for Giannis?
That's crazy to say. Like, it's always a good idea to get a Giannis Antetokounmpo. Like, I feel like you're always better off with him. But I think a lot of the fans there, and then, like I said, and everybody else that's not even in New York, want to see how this iteration of this group plays out before this, before it's all. They don't want to jump ship from this group. They like the chemistry. They like what Mike Brown's got going on. They don't want to change too much. But Giannis is always a good idea. He's always adding value. I wouldn't say they're better off, but I do think they want to see how the season goes before they make a big change like that. Again, but he might not be available at that time. So if you get an opportunity to get somebody like Giannis, I think you got to go for it.
So if it's not the Knicks, have you been able to talk yourself into any team that should take the swing and make the trade for Giannis?
Again, any team should. If I'm Giannis, I'm looking where I can extend my career and will play the longest and also win. He should really be taken in San Antonio to consideration. If he's alongside Wemby and company, they have a lot of pieces and picks to be able to do it. I know Miami is one of the teams that's looking to get him. It's a good city where, kind of fair on the state taxes. So you're going to save more of your money there. And it's a major market. I know Toronto is another good city for him that would fit. And, some people play with the idea, which I would hate to see this, but that could do it. I mean, OKC could do it. They have everybody's picks. They have a lot of pieces. It would make them an unbelievable super team, but nobody wants to see the Kevin Durant Golden State Warriors thing all over again. So yeah, I would think for him, like, to make his own or have his own path and not just jump on the championship team, he should be considering like San Antonio, Miami, Toronto. Like, those three teams could be. And he also, I mean, Detroit, him and Cade Cunningham could be a nice little mix if they can keep Jalen Duren. So there's a couple of teams that are out there that could get him. That makes sense, but he should be really considering over there in Texas.
Okay, so talk to me from your mindset about the league as a whole, because December 15th is a big day where a lot of names could start to get traded. What I'm trying to figure out is, knowing that, you bring somebody in, you're trying to win a championship this year. How active do you think the league will actually be going up to the trade deadline this year, given that there are a bunch of teams in contention and a bunch of big names?
Very active. It seems like every year the summers get more and more active. The trade line gets more and more active because, as it stands, everybody's very far behind OKC. If you want to be in that contention or want to be in talks or in the conversation to be able to challenge an OKC, you got to have a really good team. So I'd assume a lot of teams will be trying to make moves, especially the fact that the teams that were expected to do good aren't where they're at. And even the teams that are doing good, they're still probably one piece away from being in that contention conversation. So you look at a team like Sacramento, where things are not going good at all. In New Orleans, things aren't. But even the teams that are doing good, like Toronto, might be able to make a move. Detroit might. I don't know if Houston's making any more moves, but Minnesota, like even Phoenix. So they're playing well, but there's teams like that are going to be looking to make a move or two to put themselves either building up for the future or to put themselves in contention conversation right now.
One of the first dominoes to fall likely around that December 15th date is Anthony Davis. And we heard Shams talk about the Pistons, the Raptors, the Hawks as potential landing spots for AD. Where do you think AD should end up?
All these teams are great. Again, so Toronto has a lot to offer. They can package to get him. The team that I want to see him go to, I don't think they have enough to make it work that Dallas would want in return. But I would love to see him partner up with somebody else. And of course, the first is first. I want to see him healthy. I want him, playing good basketball, happy, and his body in good shape, to where we can see Anthony Davis play for a full 82-game season, or at least 70, 75 games, and then be healthy for the playoffs. But I mentioned that Minnesota team. I would love to see him with Anthony Edwards try to team up in the West with him and Julius Randle. I don't know if he's played with Julius before. They know each other pretty well. He's played with a big before. He likes that big situation where he's played with DeMarcus Cousins. He's played with Dwight Howard. And then of course he went to Dallas because it made sense for him with Lively and Gafford. Like he doesn't want to play the center position. But if he can get there with Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle, I think it makes them a very dangerous, dynamic team. But again, I don't think Dallas is going to want a Rudy Gobert in return. They're going to want youth. They're going to want picks and pieces. I just don't see that happening. But Toronto has a lot to package. Detroit would be a good move. Said if he can stay healthy, if they can keep, Cade and Jalen. And Atlanta has a lot of pieces that they can move. But they're also a team that's kind of rebuilding. So I don't know if it makes sense for him to go there. Like he has a 2-3 year window of where he's going to be still in his prime, at his peak. And if you're in rebuild mode, it's not smart to get. You want to be a win now team. If you want to insert an Anthony Davis into your group.
Knowing what you know, though, I'm gonna put you on the spot. If you were the GM of a team, and you used a lot of ifs there, if he's healthy, if you had to give up future resources to acquire Anthony Davis, just with what we know right now, would you?
Ooh, you put me on the spot. You are putting me on the spot, Fitz. AD's my guy, man. I love him to death. It depends on what I had to give up. If I didn't have to give up a lot, obviously negotiation. And for me, it's like, we're not sure how great his body's going to be. So if that's the case, like I'm trying to give up at least a third or a fourth less of what they would want. But honestly speaking, it depends on who I am. I don't know if I take the risk right now in the middle of the season to do that. I feel like I would take that risk off-season move, see what my group can do during this regular season. But I wouldn't take that risk right now during the season, no.
All right, let's look at the Clippers because it just feels like bad story after bad story. It's a bad on the court product. We got some extracurriculars off the court as well. It's been a brutal season so far for the Clippers. So who among their stars do you think could get dealt, and what are some potential landing spots as well?
I know they said that they were planning on keeping James and Kawhi, but if I'm them, I'm trading everybody. Like, I'm jumping ship. I'm letting everybody go and getting as much value as I can get back, whether it's picks, pieces, and starting over and going young. I think they're all valuable. I think they're all very good. I just don't think right now they're not fitting well, and any of them are happy to be there right now. I don't think anybody's happy to be a Clipper and in that building or in that jersey right now. But again, I think they're keeping James and Kawhi, and everybody else I think is up for grabs. But, Brook Lopez is a piece that somebody could use as a great backup. John Collins is another piece. Derek Jones Jr. is a piece. They have a couple other guys that are pretty solid that teams could use. So I could picture Kawhi back in Toronto or something like that, or I could picture James back in Houston. Who knows where they can go? But some teams could use a point guard like James. Some teams could use a really good wing like Kawhi, but I don't think they're giving those guys up. Everybody else, it's really, I'd have to really sit down and put in the GM hat to see where they would fit best and help a group.
Yeah, Dan, we're just trying to make you the GM of a bunch of teams. That's all. Trying to help
Of everyone.
You already got 32 jobs. We're just giving you more.
Right.
All right. So how about this one? I know you had a brief stint in Memphis. You've been around Ja.
Mm-hmm.
What would you do right now if you're Memphis? How would you handle Ja? Would you trade him? Would you keep him? What's his value?
It's tough. I mean, he's a very talented player. He's very good, but his value is not showing that because of the injuries and because of the off the court situations and issues. So it's hard to get in return what you want for him. But I think the world of Ja as a player. I think he can, do a lot of things for a franchise. He can turn a franchise around. But yeah, if I'm Memphis, it's a decision. It seems like him and the coaching staff aren't getting along, and I don't think you want to go through another coaching staff. My opinion, I think they made a mistake with letting go Taylor, and that coaching staff. And this is why, Ja's kind of pushing back. But I think you have to move him. I think, I won't say ties are severed, but he's not in a good space, and I just don't see it getting back. And he seems like a guy that's pretty stuck in his ways. So once you kind of rub him the wrong way, I just don't see him getting back on his good side. So I think you try to move him and get as much back. And this is a group that they've been trying to get back to where they were for 3 years now. you need to start over, start off young. You still have young pieces. You can start fresh. You can get some really good things in return for him. And if that's the case, you can go move Jaren Jackson Jr. as well, who is up for a huge extension. You can probably save yourself some money because they're getting first team, all NBA, all defensive team, or defensive player of the year, where they're going to get these huge extensions. Where if they go somewhere else, they probably won't get it because it's not their team, unless they bird rights. A lot of the contractual stuff. But yeah, if you're gonna move Ja, you probably move Jaren, and then you probably start off really young. You keep Zach Edey, and you go with that group and try to see what you can build from that. Moving forward with the draft capital.
All right, I'm going to ask you to go right back into the GM chair. When we talk
Okay.
about moving Ja out of Memphis, it's probably a difficult one to swallow for a lot of people in the Grizzlies
Mhm.
organization. Understanding Ja is a certified superstar in the league. He puts butts in seats. I'll add
Mhm.
LaMelo and Charlotte into that conversation as well. When you are ultimately the person that has to decide, do we want to hold on to a guy who has maybe had some question marks or move on from him? How do you weigh that of, do we have to go in a different direction versus we have to sell tickets and this guy does that?
You can do both, but eventually, if you're losing, you're not selling tickets, so it doesn't matter.
Fair.
Winning ultimately sells tickets. So I get it. It's hard to let go of a franchise guy, but if your franchise guy's not showing up, or he's injured, or he's not happy and not playing well, you got to just you got to call. Take it for what it is. It's a loss. A loss is a loss, and you could find a way to get some type of wins in the loss, and that's recouping something in return. Whether it's a lot of draft picks, getting somebody like if you can get AJ DeBansa in the draft, or Cameron Boozer or Darren Peterson, like those guys that are coming out would help sell tickets. Or if you made a trade, like Miami's in talks with trying to get him possibly, which you can get some youth back. You can also, I did some actually with this one, I did some GM myself. I put it in the machine with Toronto. You put him and KC in a package, and you get back like a RJ Barrett and a Quickly. You still got youth, and you get picks. If you're winning games, you're gonna get people in seats. There's not much. Not to disrespect Memphis, but Memphis loves their team because there's not like a bunch of other things to a bunch of events that's happening there. Like they love their Grizzlies, and this is what they have, so they're gonna support regardless. And if you're winning, they're definitely gonna support.
You spent a little time in Philly, obviously. We're getting the loud roars at this point about Embiid, especially they've gotten so guard heavy, and Embiid doesn't look like
Yeah.
himself. It's hard to say this for a player of Embiid's status, but is he washed? Does he have anything left in the tank to you?
Oh man, the hot seat. All my ex-teammates, all my ex-teams. No, I think Joel is it's more of a mental thing with him. I don't think he's washed. It's going to take him some time. He's on minute restriction, but he is very much, I said this on other platforms, he's very much taking a back seat, and which is okay. Like it's okay to defer to Tyrese, Maxey. But everybody else, no. Like you got to find a way to get back to yourself and be aggressive. Like he was doing a lot of DHOs. He shot 21 shots the other day that I watched, but a lot of them didn't look like he wanted to shoot them. Like he didn't have a good night, so it was off night, and he shot a couple threes, a couple mid ranges. But he's got to be more aggressive. He's trying to just draw fouls, get back in shape, play the game, get your body right. He's not past his prime. Like he's still young enough to give you good 2 or 3 years. For him, it's more mental. And it's going to take time. So I don't think he's washed. But if he doesn't get right mentally, Philly was one of the teams I thought was a sleeper. And it's a team you don't want to face in the playoffs. And it could be one of they could sneak and get out of the East somehow or get to the Eastern Conference Finals. If he's not that, then they're nowhere near. They're a first round exit, or if that, So he's got to get right for them to be a threat.
You guys should check out
There've been-
Inside the Green Room. That's the podcast hanging out. Danny, I'll tell you,
Appreciate it.
I've said this.
You had a
million times,
question?
man.
Sorry,
Just sit-
sorry, I don't know.
No,
She had.
No,
did you have
well,
another
good. I'll
question?
let you go.
No, go ahead. If you have another one, I thought you
Well,
had something cooking.
Well,
ahead.
I was cooking a little bit. We're looking
Okay,
ahead
go-
to Wemby's comeback. We've seen some
Okay,
legends
yeah.
of the game wear a Spurs uniform. Tim Duncan, Danny Green. What's it going to take for Victor Wembanyama to be the most elite player to ever wear a Spurs uniform?
Just time. This kid is trending in the right direction. He loves the game. He cares. His body's filling out. He's still so young and youthful. If he stays healthy in time, it's only a matter of time. He's going to be defensive player of the year multiple years. He's developing an offensive package, and they're getting a lot of pieces around him. Don't let them mess around and get Giannis. But he's got Dylan Harper. He's got De'Aaron Fox. He's got Vassell, Champagnie. He's got Harrison Barnes. He's got so many guys. Jeremy Sohan. Cornette behind him. Like they got good pieces in depth. So they're doing a great job, what they've done for decades now, the Spurs organization, finding hidden gems in the right places and building and developing their players. This is going to be the team to challenge OKC for the next 10 years. That's my prediction.
Every time we see him on TV, he makes us smarter. That's what he does. Danny Green. Check out Inside the Green Room, brother. Appreciate your time. Congratulations.
I appreciate you guys.
The family.
Thank you, man. Fitz, it's always good to see you, man.
You too, brother.
Thanks, Danny.
It's Danny Green hanging out with us. Absolutely the best. Coming up next, we'll figure out. We've been trying to move players all over the teams. Now we're going to try and fire coaches. We're on one today. Hot seat coming up next. If we're being real, the entire AFC North could have new head coaches next season. Stefanski and Taylor fired for missing the playoffs again. Tomlin mutually parting ways, and Harbaugh retiring to sit next to Ozzie. He's not getting fired unless we lose out, go 6-11. I don't know if that's one of our friends' burners accounts, but I will say this: it does raise a wild question at this point because all four fan bases in the AFC North, if you just sit in a Buffalo Wild Wings and watch football on a Sunday, you can just listen to the conversation. Every single fan base in that one division wants their favorite team's coach fired. So let's look at this first. Is there a better chance that all four get fired or all four stay to you?
I think there's a better chance that all four stay just because, and I hear Pittsburgh Steelers fans everywhere. I hear Ravens fans everywhere. They're ready to move on from Tomlin and Harbaugh respectively. It's gotten stale. It's time for a fresh face, I hear you. Those ownership groups aren't moving on from those head coaches. So I think there's a better chance that they all four stay, although Zach Taylor got to go.
Zach Taylor's your one that has to go?
He has to go. His quarterback's name is Joe, and he's got to go. It's not, He could make the justification of like, Joe Burrow was hurt this year. It's not just this year. The Bengals have fallen short ever since they got to a Super Bowl. They've tried to address so many holes on the roster defensively and on the offensive line, and they just haven't gotten better. So if you're drafting and evaluating talent, at some point it has to be on the coaching staff. Frankly, I think Zach Taylor's kind of a ding-dong that lucked out in getting one of the best quarterbacks on the planet in Joe Burrow. It's time that Zach Taylor got to get out of here.
Yeah, I don't disagree that I think he's the most likely to go. Look, I'm just going to keep saying it on record. For a second, I'll wear my Logic hat that every fan base hates because I have no feelings, and I just think So for me, the Ravens are going to logically look around and say, yep, a lot of injuries. That's why we were where we were. Harbaugh will get it fixed. We're not going to make a rash change. The Steelers are going to look around and say, nope, we're not going to make a rash change. In fact, Shefty already reporting that they're simply not going to fire Tomlin. I think Tomlin comes back next year still. So, and then all of a sudden I'm looking at Stefanski. I think from everybody I've talked to, the Browns understood it was a developmental year and their rookies are developing incredibly well. So I think Stefanski sticks around, and then that leaves you to Taylor. And I think there is sort of the fail-safe of, man, Joe was hurt and we're going to get it right. And, we need better talent on the defensive side of the ball. I think all four are going to be back. But if there's one that I think should be fired, that is definitely Zach Taylor to me. And it's for the very reason you just said. They keep trying. How many defensive coordinators can you bring in time and time again before you just have to try something new? Now, that being said, it is multiple defensive coordinators. So at some point, it's not just Zach Taylor. It's also the organization's inability to identify talent on that side of the ball. You can only try so many cooks before you have to start looking at the ingredients they're cooking with to wonder if maybe something went wrong. Like I see this tweet here, but the fact is Al Golden was widely regarded as a great hire for the Bengals. So if we weren't sitting there at the time saying, what in the hell are you doing? Well, I'm not going to sit there now and say, well, Al Golden must not know how to coach. It's just a broken system for the Bengals.
At some point, and I think very similarly about Fitz, I keep picking on your Raiders, but I'll use the Raiders, for example. Pete Carroll has been at the highest of highs at two different levels in football. So at some point, is it a Pete Carroll problem with the Raiders, or is it just a Raiders problem with the Raiders? Same thing with Al Golden with the Cincinnati Bengals. Al Golden is a very well-respected defensive coordinator. He comes in, the Bengals defense still stinks. So is it an Al Golden problem, or is it a Bengals problem? So I think we can both agree, and I think Bengals fans felt very similarly. It's time for something new in Cincinnati, but you and I just both said it's a very high likelihood that all four of these coaches come back next season, and a big reason is because we know how these ownership groups work and how they tick. For the Steelers, for example, they don't fire coaches, whether that's right, wrong, or indifferent. They just don't do it. But if you ran each of these teams, if you owned the Steelers and the Browns, if you owned these teams, would these coaches be coming back next year? We can go team by team in the division.
Okay, so funny. If I own these teams, I would not bring back Zach Taylor at all. I think Joe Burrow is a cheat code, and almost any quarterback or almost any coach can win 6 or 7 games with Joe Burrow. So I'm not bringing him back.
Yeah.
Are you? You bringing Taylor back?
No,
we're squarely in agreement on this.
He would have been gone a couple years ago.
I am bringing Harbaugh back for another year because I know this year has gone wildly off the rails, but this is a team that's been in playoff contention every year. I'm not going to spin the revolving door just for the hell of it. What about you?
Harbaugh would stay for me. I would have some patience for a year that feels awfully fluky versus is the new rule with this team.
Okay, so then we get to the Steelers, and this is the toughest one for me because I don't think – if I thought the Steelers could contend next year, then I would bring Tomlin back, honestly. I just think the entire Steelers organization roster, I think the entire roster is basically broken. So I'm firing Tomlin probably because I just want to get a fresh voice and a complete restart, and I just want to rip it all the way down to the studs and just do it's like flipping a house. I no longer believe in anything in the house. I'll flip it down to the studs. I'll trade away anything I possibly can, and I'll just start a full rebuild of my roster.
I'm moving on from Tomlin as well, and I respect Mike Tomlin, who he is as a person, who he is as a coach, and I think the second he gets fired, if I'm New York and the Giants, if I'm the Tennessee Titans, I'm picking up the phone and I'm calling Mike Tomlin, but that doesn't mean the Steelers shouldn't move on from him just because he's going to be a hot commodity. It just feels like it's time, feels like it's run its course, it feels like the Steelers have been in the same place, in the same position for so many years. It's time for something new. I would move on from Mike Tomlin. Kevin Stefanski's an interesting one as well. I personally, Fitz, I would move on from Kevin Stefanski if the Browns are sure that they want to find a new quarterback in this upcoming draft. If they want to run it back with Shador, then I would probably hold on to Kevin Stefanski. But if the Browns are shopping for a quarterback in this upcoming draft, I would want my new head coach and my young quarterback to be on the same timeline. So I would move on from Kevin Stefanski and find my next quarterback of the future.
So I have to remain consistent in that portion of it. I've always said the day you draft a quarterback, you should everybody in the room. I mean, down to the janitor, down to the concession stand people. I don't care. Every single person in the room has one job when you draft a quarterback in the first round, particularly, and that is to speak the language of that quarterback and develop that quarterback.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to trust Kevin Stefanski, if the Browns are in a position to take a top quarterback this year and they choose to draft him, then I'm going to sign Kevin Stefanski to an extension to make sure that they're on the same clock. The one thing I don't want is one and done. If I don't believe in him enough to do that, then I should fire him. That being said, I look at the Browns as an organization, and I think that the best I can sense from the people I have tried to talk to is that Browns ownership understood that this was likely going to be a bad year, a 6-win type season, with the expectation that talent was developing. Well, that's kind of who they are. Now, the quarterback situation has gone awry, but again, just like I said, I think anybody can win with Joe Burrow. I'm not sure any coach was going to win with the quarterback situation the way they've had it this year, even through the process of Shedeur. If I believe that Shedeur is coming in lights out right now, I will also credit Kevin Stefanski as part of the development for why Shedeur is getting there. All of this was going to take time. I think the Browns ownership knew that coming into it. So I have a hard time believing they've seen anything that's so wildly below their expectations, which does skew some of this, that they fire. So to your point, if I'm keeping Shedeur, or if I had a realistic expectation of who the Browns were going to be, then I'm probably keeping Stefanski. If I'm drafting, I'm with you. I have no problem firing him unless they do believe in him, in which case you got to sign him to like a 5-year extension and start the clock all the way over.
Yeah. If you believe in him to identify and develop your next franchise quarterback, then yeah, you keep it. I mean, those kind of coaches don't come around every single day. But if you don't believe that he can identify and develop that guy, you have to move on from him, and you have to try and find the next guy that you think can.
Yeah, and I think, look, I've often said, one GM said to me years ago that if you're able to get 4 or 5 high-level starters in one offseason, that's a Hall of Fame offseason, right? If you look at the way that this draft is going overall for the Browns and some of the talent that they were able to draft this year coming in, this looks like an absolutely epic draft by Andrew Berry, the GM there. So if they can put another epic draft together, God only knows. So what do you think? At this point, if you had to put money on it, Stefanski stays or goes?
I think Stefanski stays. I'm also not totally and completely resigned to the fact that Shedeur won't be their quarterback moving forward. I'm not totally resigned to the fact that the Browns are certainly 100% going to be drafting a quarterback in this upcoming draft. I thought they were a few weeks ago, but at this point, the Browns might be able to talk themselves into running it back with Shedeur and drafting the best player available.
I don't think wherever they're picking, unless it's in the top 2, they'll have a shot at one of the quarterbacks that most people project as being worth drafting in this year's draft. We'll keep breaking it down. I'll learn how to talk. Come back, hang out with us tomorrow. More Yahoo Sports Daily at 9 a.m. right here.